जय हिंद दोस्तों, मैं हूं मेजर मोहम्मद अली शाह और आज मैं एक बहुत ही खास मेहमान के साथ गुफ्तगू में होऊंगा जिनके साथ बात करने के लिए मैं बहुत ज्यादा बेकरार हूं. Who needs no introduction at all? You all know him. Yes, the former Minister of Information Broadcasting, Mr. Manish Tewari. And I don't want to go on further. The name itself is enough. Sir, Jai Hind and welcome and thank you very much for taking time, sir.
Good evening, Major Shah. Thank you very much. You have been in conversation with some very, very eminent and erudite people, and I really feel honored that I can be a part of the regular conversations that you have.
That's very kind of you to say, sir. Very, very kind of you to say. Sir, I am not being biased or I'm not being this thing about it. Honestly, you have been you can ask the people, and it's not my words, these are the words of the people. They say you have been one of the best ministers and the most erudite ministers we've had. So I would like to know, was it always your ambition as a child to take on leadership roles, to enter politics? How was it, sir? How was the journey like?
Well, not at all. It was an accident of history. If it wouldn't have been for the assassination of my late father, Professor Dr. Tewari, in the April of 1984, by terrorists in Chandigarh who were at that point in time espousing the cause of separatism. Uh, I perhaps would have never been in public life. I was a swimmer. I used to play water polo. I aspired to do a master's in business administration and become a regular manager in some company. But I guess destiny had something else in store.
Right, sir. So, and then ultimately after 1984, how was it that you decided to enter politics, irrespective? Like, I'm not getting into political ideology or the party, but the whole thing of taking on leadership roles. How did that come about, sir?
Well, I was already involved in grassroots student politics from 1981 onwards. In 1983, I was elected as the vice president of DAV College, Chandigarh, and then our president unfortunately had to go away. So, for all intents and purposes, I was the acting president of my college. DAV College, Chandigarh is a very, very prestigious institution, or at least it was at that point in time in the whole of North India. So, I guess it's something which I wouldn't say came naturally, but yes, there was a degree of interest.
Sir, and also a lot of people say it's not again not my views, but a lot of people say that Manish Tiwari, especially sorry to embarrass you out there. I know Mrs. Tiwari may not be too happy about it, but the girls especially they say, "Oh, Manish Tiwari he speaks so well." So were you always into winning eloquency competitions, debate competition right from school days, sir?
Well, I do not know what the girls and the ladies say, but I do know that a lot of critics uh, tend to comment that I am fairly verbose and use words which are not easily comprehensible. I think that had something to do with my GMAT preparation in the early 80s, where you had to maybe learn words which were a part of the examination curricula. And then over a period of time, they just became a part of your vocabulary.
Right, sir. So tell us again, about your education again. Though, of course, I know I did a thorough research on you, but I would like all our viewers to know more about that. We unfortunately we do not have, irrespective of the government, irrespective of the political parties, but in politics, educated पढ़े लिखे लोग बहुत कम आना चाहते हैं राजनीति में, सर. और इस ऐसा क्यों है इसके बारे में हम बात करेंगे. But why is it that tell us something about. I want the viewers to know that we have had a very, very educated minister at the helm of affairs of Ministry of Information Broadcasting, sir. And
Well,
not just that, but many more, sir.
I'm not very educated. I'm just a humble little lawyer. So therefore, I did a degree in law, and then of course practiced law after that, which I continue to practice even today. And I do, as you're aware, I have an interest in strategic affairs, in international affairs. I served as a distinguished senior fellow with the Atlantic Council in Washington, D.C. Before that, I was very intimately associated with the Observer Research Foundation. I continue to be associated with the CSDR, where large number of very eminent experts of international affairs are there. General Huda, General Praveen Bakshi, Ambassador Rakesh Sood, and of course, the founder of that think tank, Professor Happy Mohan Jacob. So therefore, one is one has an interest, and therefore, in pursuance of that interest, you kind of tend to read, write, learn, and life is a learning process. The more you read, the more you learn something new every day.
Absolutely, sir. Sir, law में आपका interest कैसे जागा? I mean, tell us about how you decided to pursue law and why law, for that matter.
Well, essentially, as I told you, I was keen on pursuing a degree in management. And in 1985, I actually enrolled in the Department of Commerce and Business Management for a postgraduate course in an MBA in Personal Management. It used to be called a Masters of Personal Management and Industrial Relations, MPM and IR at that particular point in time. Subsequently, the course got redesignated as an MBA in Personal Management when the Faculty of Commerce and Business Management became the University Business School in Punjab University, Chandigarh. But then, as I said, 1985, Punjab was fairly turbulent. Things were not exactly hunky dory from a security point of view, given what had happened to us as a family a year before that. So I could not pursue that particular course. I had to give it up halfway. And then I moved to Delhi and enrolled in law school. So, as I said, the earlier part of my life and the decisions which got taken were really accidents of history or accidents of fate. I mean, I don't think I had planned it, but of course, law was something which interested me. My maternal grandfather was a lawyer. He was a freedom fighter. He was a minister for long years in the Pepsu and Punjab governments. He very actively practiced law. Even on my father's side, his uncles, my cousins, everyone was into law and still continues to be very, very intimately associated with the profession. So I guess there was a certain amount of a background, and I think destiny had something else in store from what I had planned for myself.
Very well said, sir. Very true. Sir, at what age did you enter politics?
Well, that really depends upon how do you quantify politics, or you how do you quantify the word politics. If you are talking about when did I join political activism, that was in 1981. But it was in 1984, in the October of 1984, that I became the National Secretary of the National Students Union of India. And then, of course, one thing led to another, and here we are after 42 years.
Right, sir. So, what I meant in the way a national party, sir.
Well, I've been always associated with the Indian National Congress, the National Students Union of India, which I had the honor of heading from 1988 to 1993 at the national level, is the student organization of the Indian National Congress. And subsequently, in 1992, I was the first Asian who was elected as the president of the International Union of Students also.
Yes, sir. So why ऐसा देखा गया है अनुमान तौर पे my observation has been that a lot of educated people they shrug away from politics. The moment you say why don't you join politics, you speak well, you have all the qualities, the first reaction to their mind is either is it sour grapes that they do not they feel कि वो जीत नहीं पाएंगे उनकी कोई chance नहीं है, or in your view, in Manish Tiwari's view, what is the why is it that पढ़ा लिखा इंसान normally will think of a career in multinational companies, will think of the career in armed forces, but will not think of a career in politics as such.
Well, a lot of young people come and ask me that they want to join public life, they want to be in politics, and I only give them one stock response, which is something which I give to even people closest to me. That if I had a chance to rewind my own life, I would have spent the first 20, 25 years focusing exclusively on my profession. Once you achieve the pinnacle of your profession, then you can always get into public life. So my advice to every youngster who's interested in a career of in public service is to first concentrate on his or her profession, uh, make a name for themselves in their profession, stand on their own 2 feet, become financially independent, and then only should they really think about entering public life. Number two, to answer the subsequent part of your question, look, the barriers to entry in public service, unfortunately, in India are very high, as they are in various other countries. Uh, the cost of contesting an election at any level has become really prohibitive. And then, unfortunately, your academic qualifications or your proficiency as a profession, unfortunately, has very little to do with getting elected or otherwise. So, I guess if people are hesitant or they have reservations, it is for the right reasons. We need to really open up our public spaces to younger people, get more younger people to come in, democratize our political parties, bottoms up, so that people get a fair chance to be able to enter and to rise to the top. So there is what I call the second wave of reforms which India desperately needs. And this second wave of reforms is essentially how do we democratize the internal functioning of our political parties.
Right. So I was reading a quote by a very popular film star who became a politician later on, and in that he had written that glamour has got unlimited power, but power has got unlimited glamour. Would you agree with that quote?
Well, I would respectfully disagree because
Okay.
glamour can get you elected, but then ultimately, glamour does not help you to deliver. And if you take the example, you have many celebrities in parliament. Some of
Hmm.
them are extremely diligent at their work. They attend parliament regularly, participate in debates, discussions, raise questions. That is, of course, when parliament functions, which more often than not it does not. But they are there. And then there are others who essentially are bodies to fill a particular seat because their glamour can get them elected. So it helps bolster the numbers which a political party requires in order to form government. But their performance is then abysmal. If you look at the current Lok Sabha also, there are some people who got elected, and I don't want to take names and embarrass them, but who got elected because of the glamour quotient, but have never ever visited their constituencies and even less participated in the proceedings of parliament.
Right, sir. So it looks very, very glamorous to a person that, a politician is there. He comes to, for example, he comes to an event as a chief guest. He's got security guard. He takes decisions. He forms policies and such things. But the back end of it, many people don't see that. जो कितनी मेहनत लगती है to win an election, to fight an election, and to campaign, and to actually the background. So you would have done a lot of rallies, sir. Could you throw some light on any memory you would like to share while campaigning? Anything in particular that would just come to your mind spontaneously, sir?
Well, as someone who's lived under the shadow of permanent security since April 1984, except for a few patches when it got taken away for entirely partisan political reasons. I can tell you that it is most disconcerting and and very embarrassing to be escorted by 7 or 10 or 15 people. Some of us are compelled because of the circumstances or because of the states that we come from and the peculiar security situation in those particular parts of India. But let me tell you, it is not pleasant under any circumstances. I remember as a young person, if you would go out for a date with a woman and or a lady, and you had two security guards in the rear of the car, it wasn't really the most comfortable of situations either for you or the lady in question. And I remember when my wife and I were dating, and we dated for 6 years before we got married. One of the constant complaints that she had was this overbearing, shadow on our lives at all times, and the urge to break away is so overpowering. I remember now that I have been able to control it, I don't do it any longer. But as a young person, one would just kind of give your PSOs a skip and kind of be on your own, till the time their superior officers would then come to counsel you and say that, if you do this, they will lose their jobs, irrespective of what happens to you or not. That really remains secondary. So for their security, for the security of their jobs, they've been assigned to you. You must keep them with you all the time. So it's actually very very difficult, and some people who are under far greater security cover that I have ever been, they can tell you that when roads get blocked because a cavalcade has to pass or something, many people, they, if you are a sensitive soul, they actually cringe internally because they know how many people on the street must be abusing you, just because they've had to wait in a traffic jam, which invariably happens as a consequence of traffic getting blocked. So it's not the easiest situation to really live in, and I think that is something where some fundamental reforms are needed. For example, whenever I've visited Israel, and Israel has a very very peculiar security situation again, given its history and even its circumstances, but the security out there is always there, but it is very unobtrusive. Unfortunately, our security, not only personal security, but even security of public places, is very obtrusive. Like, for example, when you go to the airport, you see a large number of people carrying very heavy caliber weapons around. And I often think to myself that, God forbid, if somebody actually was, for some reason, to lose his or her mind, and you being from the army, you've heard about fratricidal fire, it can result in a lot of inadvertent casualties. So I think even our security paradigms need to be rethought about, or need to be rethought insofar as the grind is concerned. I guess the grind is there in every profession. Every weekend, when I go to my constituency, so my constituency is the largest in Punjab, Sri Anandpur Sahib. It spans four districts in Punjab: Mohali, Roopnagar, Shahid Bhagat Singh Nagar, which is Namashahr, and Hoshiarpur. We have 1,500 villages, and we have 11 small and big towns, and a lot of what we call in Punjabi kasbas. So every day on the road is 400 kilometers, from morning till evening. So it's not easy, doing 600, 700 kilometers in 2 days time, right? Because you're trying to cover as much ground as possible, and that's only one part of it. And then, of course, You see, you have many egos to massage, and as elections near, you have a lot of people who generally tend to get angry for no other reason except that they want you to come and cajole them, and so historical grievances get regurgitated. That's 4 years back you did not pick up my phone. So there's a lot of that stuff which keeps on happening, but I guess that's par for the course. If this is what you chose to do, nobody has really asked you to do it, then you kind of suck it and live with it.
Right, sir. So I'm sure you'll pardon me for this. I hope you do. In fact, there was a WhatsApp joke which came about. Sometime I wonder if you happen to glance through that, where it's written that the topper of the class, he became an academician, became a professor. Then the one who got a second div, thereafter he became and he joined the armed forces, and so on. And that grading was there. And the one who apparently who failed, he became a politician and he ruled over the bureaucrats and the professors and the armed forces. I wonder if you've seen that joke, sir.
Well, I was the
No?
author of it many decades ago. So therefore, unfortunately, I don't subscribe to the WhatsApp University of India. But I used to relate this story to my colleagues and peers, maybe 3 decades ago, that, the brightest who pass out of school, and, we had 10 plus 1 plus 3 at that point in time, actually end up in medical or engineering colleges. And well, those who are not able to get into medical or engineering colleges, then possibly end up doing an MBA or maybe becoming lawyers. And those who are not able to do anything, then maybe end up becoming politicians. But I can tell you a lot has changed. There are lots of educated politicians.
That is what I was coming at, sir. That's exactly what I was coming at,
There
sir.
are lots of educated and well meaning people who serve their constituencies, who've given up very lucrative careers in order to and have chosen to be in public service. So, under those circumstances, I guess as time would advance, you would have more talented young people coming into public life.
That's exactly, sir. You literally stole words out of my mouth. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that is Manish Tiwari. You heard straight from the horse's mouth about a life, about insights about politics. And sir, before we let you go, one last question for you. Sir, being the minister at the information broadcasting, how much influence would the ministry be having on, of course, all the news channels and all the broadcasts, all the media comes under them? How much influence would the Ministry of Information, any government would be there, any government, irrespective of the government in power, how much influence would they be having about the content to be either censored or shown on what the world should see actually?
Well, depends on your approach. When I became Minister for Information and Broadcasting, my Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, told me that your relationship with the media has to be an essay in persuasion, not an essay in coercion. Uh, Subsequently, what has been unfolding since 2014 is a completely different story altogether. So it is not about the influence that you have. After all, you are the licensor for all television channels, for all newspapers. And of course, now this government wants to very actively or rather proactively censor even online content. It depends upon what is that you believe in. Do you believe that democracy requires a free media? And if democracy requires a free media, uh, does that freedom come with certain self imposed restraint and responsibility? If that self imposed restraint and responsibility is abused, then what is the remedy to it? So, therefore, these are very profound questions which go to the core of our democracy, which unfortunately have never, ever been seriously debated or discussed. Let me tell you in conclusion that India has about 890 television channels, right? About 390 or 400 of them are supposed to be news and current affairs channels. and the rest are an assorted variety of entertainment and sports and religious channels. Now, unfortunately, the revenue model of the television industry is so skewed that it is 99% dependent on advertising. Advertising is measured by a very faulty currency called television rating points, which are in turn calculated from something called people's meters. Now you have only 35,000 or 40,000 odd people's meters actually measuring the viewing preferences of a universe which goes into almost 200 million television homes, about close to 800 million or a billion people have access to cable and satellite television. And so, therefore, when your entire revenue model is advertising based, and that advertising depends upon the number of eyeballs that you attract, then this man eat dog becomes the rule rather than the exception. And that's why you see the kind of absolute absolute unrestrained drivel, for the lack of a better word, which characterizes our the content on our televisions, primarily because there's no space for 890 television channels. There is space only for at best 100 television channels, which then, if they have a proper subscription model and which is balanced out by an advertising revenue stream, you would get content which would be worth watching. Why do you think all these television channels, especially the news channels, focus so much on these so called debates?
Hmm.
Because that is the cheapest way of creating content. You call four or five people and ask them to start abusing each other, and you create a spectacle, and then there are people who think that 9 p.m. WWF every night is actually news. And as someone who's done television for 17, 18 hours at a time, when television was or used to be a little more decent than what it is today, I can tell you that half the time you have the anchors egging you on, please attack this guy, please don't be restrained, please don't because eventually the whole idea is to grab those eyeballs, which then that faulty currency will measure, which would then translate into advertising revenue. So this whole universe is completely skewed. The same thing goes for print. I mean, the cost of printing a newspaper would be 35 to 40 rupees. I mean, if you are selling it at 5 rupees, then you are completely dependent upon advertising. And then the advertisers or the advertising agencies have the ability to twist your tail and really dictate content. So, so as Minister for Information and Broadcasting, we try to correct this skew by introducing something called the digitization of the cable and satellite universe. Unfortunately, the digitization happened, but the skew never got corrected, because once you get into a particular habit, those habits become very, very difficult to then unwind. And I can go on for hours on this, so therefore we'll just leave it out there.
Sir, sir, very well answered by you, sir. Very well said by you, and we learned so much by this discussion. And thank you very much. Truly indebted to you, sir, for taking your time, sir.
Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much, sir.
Thank you very much. It's been a
Yeah.
pleasure to join the pantheon of some very eminent people that you've had conversations with over a period of time. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, sir. Jai Hind, sir.